Hey guys, welcome to the 13th podcast of the YTCA. My name is Nick,
My name is Thea.
My name is Ezra.
and thank you guys for listening once again. I understand that this podcast is coming out one day late, and we do sincerely apologize for that. We had some technical difficulties on our end, but fortunately, they are hopefully resolved. I guess if they are resolved, you'll be seeing this podcast today. But thank you guys for joining us once again. We hope that you guys are doing well, that you guys are staying safe, and before we get started, just want to let you guys know, as always, we have our Instagram page down, Instagram link down below, where you guys can check out our latest updates. We'll basically post useful information for you guys when that'll help you guys follow along with us. And also, check out our website. Right? Our website contains a lot of useful information that we'll be putting, including many useful sources and many programs that you can attend to better yourself and to understand more about the importance of mental health and other issues. And I guess with that being said, we'll jump into this week's topic, which is pride and overconfidence. It's an interesting topic, right? Because this is something that I think everyone has experienced, right? It's something that everyone has a commonality in. Right? There are moments, right, in your life that you're prideful of something, right? Either good or bad. But before we even get into the good and bad pride, right? Let's talk about the idea of what is pride, right? Do you guys what do you guys think pride is? Like at the base level, what is a pride?
Well, I think that pride at its core is kind of this feeling of self-satisfaction in your own achievements or one's own identity in something. It can be pride in your skills. Maybe you're really academic. Maybe you get really high grades. Maybe you're a good basketball player or you're good at singing. Or it can be more kind of identity pride in the sense where like you're proud to be an American, you're proud to be an Asian, stuff like that. I think those are kind of maybe the more colloquial definitions of pride. What do you guys think?
Right. So, like I guess the adjective form would be like being proud of something. So anything that you're proud of, usually it's something that it's unique with you, or like what not a lot of people have. Like, hey, I'm very proud about being a piano player or something like that, or like I'm proud that I'm going to this really top school. And there's also another type of pride where you gain pleasure or like satisfaction from seeing that people are lower than you, or like you have things and you think you're better than someone. Like, let's say you won the soccer tournament, right? Your team won and the other team lost, and then you can kind of feel a sense of pride, right? Because you see how sad they look after they lost, right? So
I think I like that example. To the idea of if your team won a soccer tournament, right, and theirs lost, right? I think of course, I think you can take a little bit of pride in if you worked hard that season, right, to improve your skills, right? I think that's something to be prideful about, right? Because you worked hard and you achieved your goal, right? But at the same time, right, if you're comparing, right, what you have to what others have, right, that's not something that you should do because, well, in that case, right, pride acts as more of a kind of something like I guess a comparison tool, right? That you use to compare others. Right? But a lot of people, have this kind of pride, and we usually say that for example, bullies, right? They have this pride that they're stronger than others, that they're bigger than others, right? But honestly, sometimes pride is what's shielding them from the outside world. They want to use pride as kind of like a shield to kind of defend themselves because, well, some people are more vulnerable on the inside, right? The only way to kind of protect themselves is using a pride to hide themselves. Right? What do you guys think about that? Like the idea of using pride as something like a shield.
I think definitely that can be one of the uses of pride. Pride can be used to kind of mask this sort of insecurity that people have. When somebody takes pride in something, it's usually a part of their identity, right? If I perform well on, like, say, academic tests, like math tests, then I take pride in that. So I kind of use that pride to say, like, oh, like I'll do well. I'll do well on this math test. I'm good at math, right? even though that sometimes like I'll score bad, even though I'm not always the best at math. And I think that kind of goes into how pride is a sense of entitlement, can be a sense of entitlement, right? You feel entitled to something. You feel entitled to success. You feel entitled to attention, or even just like entitled to your own opinion, right? You feel that you deserve something, that you deserve it because simply it's who you are. And I think that when pride becomes like that, when you kind of become entitled to, you feel entitled to something, that's when pride can become more negative and more harmful towards yourself.
Right. I also would like to add, I think being too prideful in general is kind of negative because when that emotion starts to accumulate, you start to view other people as, being less than you. And you think that you're superior to them when, we, I don't think we're at all superior to each other. I think we're, at least kind of equal. I know that we're not super, the same, but everyone has their differences. But I think that not someone is like better than another, like totally. I would like to mention some of the different types of pride. So there's, I think, two main types of pride. We covered this a little bit. There's authentic pride, which is, feeling confident or competent about who you are. This is like, oh, I know I'm good at math, but I know that I may not be really good at English. So I know who I am. I don't have to boast to anyone about that. So that's one type of pride. But then there's this other type of pride. It's called hubristic pride. It's named after, the Greek heroes in mythology who like died because they were too prideful. And like, yeah, it happens a lot, unfortunately, in those stories. So that's the pride of basically arrogance and egocentrism.
Mhm.
And yeah, a few other types I would like to mention. There's something called great pride. You may not understand that, but it's basically the fact that you can't consider yourself equal as others because of the competitive environment you're in. You can see this in school, like when you're in a top school, right? You have to treat others as people you have to beat. You can't just see them as, people, I don't know, you can make friends with. I mean, not to say that you can't make friends with people in top schools, and there's also distorted pride. Now, this is kind of I guess, rare one, but not so rare. It's where you take pride in doing immoral things, like, oh, look at this, I cheated on the test and got away with it,
Ooh.
right? So that's like probably the worst type of pride you could have because, first of all, you shouldn't take pride in such a thing, right? We're not here to break the rules or like promote people, right? Doing that. So yeah, I won't mention the other stuff, but there's a lot of types, so you can go check it out.
Okay, is it just me, or do I think the last type of pride is more it's kind of it's okay. I don't know. Excuse my word choice if this isn't a good one. I think the last type of pride is almost sickening. I think it's something that's it's I think I mean I do see how people think, how people like that, right? It's kind of the thrill, right? Oh, I got away with something, doing something bad, right? Because I guess the feeling, right? They like the rush of it, right? Like, for example, if I shoplifted and I didn't get caught, right? If they're prideful in that, right? Because they didn't get caught, they're like, oh, look at my skills, right? Look at how good I am, right?
Nick, are you shoplifting from convenience stores and Target?
No. I'm not that kind of person. I
No
mean,
comment.
hopefully not. I mean, but right. I think that's. But I do see where that comes from. I do see a perspective in that, right? Like, right, the thrill of that. Of course,
Hmm.
I'm not shaming anyone. Of course, I don't think that's correct of doing it. And if one of you guys listening is trying to taking pride in that, of course, I won't make fun of you for doing that. I'm just saying, you should try to change the way that you take pride in different things, right? And I think some things that you should take pride in, right? Right. For example, your nationality, right? Who you are, right? For example, I'm prideful that I'm an Asian American. Right? I'm prideful of what my people, right? What we've done for this country. I'm proud. I'm proud of that, right? And I think that's something that I can take pride in and should take pride in, right? Because you shouldn't deny yourself of who you really are, right? But but the kind of pride that Theo mentioned, the last one, that kind of pride is, I think, to a certain extent unacceptable, and that is very the thinking process, I think, is very twisted. So yeah, I don't know what you guys think about that, but that's kind of my personal take on that.
I think that definitely when it comes to pride, it's a feeling of self-absorption, like being so absorbed in your own world and being absorbed with yourself, wanting the world kind of to revolve around you. You know, when we're talking about, that last kind of pride, taking pride in things that are wrong, or even any kind of pride, really, you want to feel that sense that people are paying attention to you, things are happening around you, you are special, right? That kind of, Nick was talking about that thrill, that rush of doing something even wrong, kind of will give that person a self absorbed kind of feeling of satisfaction that, oh, I'm special, I'm different from everyone else. And I think that is oftentimes where pride oversteps the line of being okay. Because think about it. If I'm prideful to be an Asian American, which I am, I take pride in, being Korean. If I take that too far, if I say that, oh, because I'm Korean, I'm better than everyone else. If I become racist, right? Then that's obviously too far. I'm becoming self-absorbed in my own thoughts, in my own kind of identity, and thinking that I'm more special than other people because of it. And that can lead to a lot of different things. Like we talked about entitlement, right? Where you feel entitled to success or your opinion. But then also just a general feeling of superiority, or a feeling that you deserve something more than another person. I don't know, what do you guys think?
Right. Yeah. Pride often, leads to entitlement. And I think I would like to add on, some of the negative effects. I know that it seems kind of spelled out, like, what are some bad things that come with having too much pride or feeling entitled, but I would like to say them anyway. One, like, it's really hard to make friends when you're really prideful. If you constantly look down on other people, no one's going to enjoy that, right? They want someone who can support them and can uplift them, not to like tear them down ruthlessly. Not to say that pride always does that. Also, it can also lead to not being able to change for the better. Like if you're so prideful, sometimes you can't learn from your failures. This kind of goes back to our podcast about failure, right? Like you think you're so good and that you don't need to improve, and you're kind of stagnant, right? You're kind of in a pit in a way. Like you can't, change for the better. I don't know, but what do you guys think?
No, I think that's really good. I think that trying to when you're prideful, let me put it this way: when you're prideful, right, you tend to it almost warps your like kind of perspective on things, because you become unable to assess certain situations from an objective perspective, right? If you're prideful in, say, your academic skills, then it becomes very apparent that you feel entitled to like success, you feel entitled to doing well, and especially when results kind of show off that kind of mindset, then it bolsters that pride, right? But at the end of the day, like if you can't look at something from an objective perspective, if you can't take the time to say, hey, like I've been doing well, but I need to keep going. I need to keep pushing forward, and I know that I'm not always on my best all the time. I think if you're not able to do that, you can become that's like another form of pride, where you kind of your viewpoint becomes distorted, and you feel like, oh, I deserve this. I deserve to succeed. And I think, if you think about it, if we go to the concept of humility, right, which I think we'll cover a little later, but humility is kind of the opposite of that. It's being able to understand yourself, being able to understand your situation and say, okay, I'm at this level and I know that I'm not the best person around. I know that I can still improve, and I know that, other people have equally as complex lives and equally as complex kind of perspectives, and I should respect them for that. Kind of, right? If that's humility, then pride is the exact opposite of that. It's saying those person's opinions and perspectives don't matter. My perspective matters because I'm special and I deserve everything.
I think, yeah, I mean, I think people have the ability to change, right? I think not a lot of this about pride is being perspective, right? I think first of all, I think one of the biggest things is, as I know it's kind of cliche, but giving credit where credit is due, right? You got to recognize how did you achieve this, right? If you're prideful of something, how did you, how did you kind of come this far, right? There, and I'll say this, and many of you might disagree with me, but I think this is true. In the process of you doing anything, right? There will be at least one person other than yourself that's helping. Whether that's God, whether that's a good friend of yours, right? Someone might just send you a text saying, "Hey, man, good luck on your test," or "Good luck studying," or something small, as small as that, right? Even though they didn't physically try to help you with too much, a small amount of motivation might be what got through, right, your toughest moments, right? And that's important. Without them, you wouldn't be where you are, right? So I think the correct attitude for that, right, and the correct thing to do there is to be thankful, right? You have those kind of help, right? You have those help, right? Instead of being prideful, right? Be thankful, right? Because well, without them, you wouldn't be there, right? And I think practicing this thankful attitude is very important, right? Because we should be thankful for what we have, right? Being prideful means that you think that what's being given to you is just is less of something that you work for, but something that that you should have. Less of a privilege than just something that just kind of handed to you for free, right? You kind of recognize it less as something that that something you see it more as something you deserve, right? It's like, oh yeah, I should have this, right? It's just I'm just this cool. I should have this. I'm just this smart. I should be able to do it well, right? The more prideful you become, the less you kind of lose sight of yourself, right? You don't really see yourself as who you are anymore, right? And sometimes that can be your ultimate downfall. Sometimes that can cause a lot of changes, right? Sometimes, if you're really proudful, right, in the moments that you're being proudful, right, other people might catch up to you, right? Other people might just be slowly, right, being humble and working, right, with the help of others, right? By the time that that you kind of your pride is kind of, but I guess not over, but after that period is kind of done, someone else might catch up to you, right? Or it may even do better than you because they were humble and they were, more down to earth, right, with others. And that can actually really shatter your self confidence, right? That can really shatter your self image. Which, yeah, I think to avoid that, don't be too prideful in what you have, right? Understand that everything is not just given to you. You don't just like how in school they say you don't the grades aren't given to you, right? You earn your grade, right? That's how life is. You earn certain things. You don't have things that's just given to you for free. Well, I guess you can kind of example stuff, but I'm saying like the things that you take pride in, right? Most likely they aren't given to you for free. Someone or something worked hard to get you there. So yeah, I think that's just something I think about the mindset. I think that it's something important for everyone to realize.
Yeah, I would like to add that, it's really hard to not be prideful. In fact, I could say that I think that I'm not prideful, but, deep inside, I think I'm, very prideful. Like, it's really hard not to have pride. Like, in this society we have, which, we like to see the results and like we like to progress, it's like really hard not to be prideful. But I guess some solutions for that is, open, have an open mind and actually maybe like serve others in a way, because that may, open your mind to other people, right? Like if you start to serve others and put yourself down, like have humility in a way, you start to realize that, it's not everything revolves around me. Like, what Ezra said, when you're prideful, you think that you're the king of everything, or, you're in your own world. But, hey, there's people around me who, they're like me, they're going through life and they're having, some struggles, right? So maybe even, I know it's hard to do this if you're prideful, but like, I don't know, maybe you can like ask for other people's perspectives, kind of like what we talked about in our podcast for failure. And lastly, I want to mention to forgive people. Sometimes we think when someone has wronged us, we're like, oh man, we're so right. I'm like really proud that I'm in the right side and they're in the wrong. But sometimes we should just forgive them. Like, hey, if I were in your circumstance, maybe I would have done the same thing, right? And we should say, hey, I forgive you. It's okay. We're good, right? I think that's like a really good way to, I guess, handle pride.
I think that's a really good thing to talk about, recognizing that you are prideful. I mean, every human is prideful, it's not something exclusive to like only a certain set of individuals or a certain kind of people. Everyone has pride in one thing or another. And nobody likes to be called prideful. Prideful isn't a compliment in any sense, except for maybe like, oh, I'm proud to be an American. But other than like stuff like that, pride really isn't a compliment. You know, when someone calls you prideful, it's usually because, you know, they consider you to be overly entitled or they think that you have a sense of superiority. And when you recognize that you are prideful, when you really like sit down and think about all the things in your life that kind of make up your pride and your kind of identity, I think that's when you realize that, hey, I'm not entitled to these things and I'm not entitled to certain aspects of my life that I feel like I should be. And I think that's one of the ways God really humbles us is oftentimes when when people themselves like call you out, or when even God convicts you, right, in a certain way or another. Because if you're if you're never called out, if you never have the conviction, if you've never felt a conviction that like, hey, no, maybe I should dial this back. Maybe I'm being too prideful in this certain aspect. Maybe I feel entitled to something that I don't actually deserve. Or even maybe you do deserve it. Maybe you say you're really good at something. Maybe you're really good at like maybe you're really good at something, right? Like academics, like math. We'll go back to that example, right? You feel like you deserve an A, right? And you feel like you always deserve to, get the right answer, right? And maybe you do. Maybe you genuinely do have the chops to be a really good mathematician or really good academic student. But if you even though you deserve it, feeling a sense of entitlement towards it, making yourself feel like, oh, like I'm superior to everyone else, is is a pretty unhealthy mindset to have, and it's kind of the whole downfall of pride. Theo kind of talked about like a hubris or hubristic pride, right? Like even though maybe you do have the skills or the chops to, earn certain things, but if you feel a sense of entitlement towards them, if you lack the humility to say, if you lack the humility to understand your position and understand that, not everyone is seeing eye to eye with you, then that in it of itself is already like prideful, and that in it of itself is not healthy.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's hard for us to realize that we're prideful. Sometimes it's hard for me to know that I'm being prideful about something, right? That I'm boasting about something. Right? But it's the other people around you that can really help you with that. right? The people around you can really tell. I think a good thing is as a friend, right? Um, sometimes it might be embarrassing to say it, but I think it's important to point out when someone is boasting too much, right? Someone is being prideful, because you're not there to hurt them, right? You're not. That's not your goal. Your goal is not to hurt them, but you want to help them, right? You want to help them realize, what they have done is, might hurt them in the future. Right? You're preventing them from going into a wrong turn, right? Like a good friend should. So I think I think to that extent, it's a really good solution for this, for being prideful is, being mindful, right? Being mindful of the other people around you, right? Helping them, right? Because, of course, and no matter how mindful I am, right? I'm biased against myself, right? There's many things I think that, for example, sometimes it's hard for me to see my own mistakes, right? Because, well, I've been living with myself for 17 years, right? It's like, I kind of just accept the way that everything I do is good, right? Because I'm like everyone is. I feel like everyone, right? The world kind of is self-centered around everyone, right? Because you talk about, hey, I saw this today, I ate this today, right? No one, I don't say Nick ate this today, right? I said I, right? Everything is centered around I ate this, I slept, I went to school, I did this, right? So I think the really important times is kind of using another person's perspective, right, to look at you, and they'll actually be able to tell really well if you're being prideful or not. So yeah, I think that's a real. I think in part of itself, I think that's a really good way to deal with that.
Mm.
Yeah, you guys, what do you guys think?
I think, yeah, definitely having people around you to help you out and to people who you respect, right? To call you out when you're being prideful. Not like in a toxic way where like, dude, like just throwing insults at you and whatnot. Obviously that's not a healthy way to recognize when you're prideful or not. But like really people who like genuinely want to help you, oftentimes you need to initiate first, like say, oh, hey, like be honest with me. Am I prideful? And when you get another perspective, or when God convicts you in it of itself, right? That's when I think you have the opportunity to change. That's when you have the greatest ability to kind of recognize where you're prideful and where you need to humble yourself. We'll kind of talk about more of it next week, but humility is kind of the opposite of pride and is basically the virtue that we all strive for, right? So I think that, having someone there to call you out on your pride is really important. And hey, if you need someone to call, if you need like people to keep you in check and whatnot, we always have our support group, which you guys can
Ah,
join. Interest form will be in the description.
yeah. I mean, you guys want, you guys can fill the interest form, or we'll send you the link and Zoom and everything. We have a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun with it. We talk about different topics. You guys can open up to us because we're here to help you. We really have the desire within us to kind of make sure that everyone is kept up to date, that we're keeping each other accountable, right? If you're being prideful about something, talk to us, right? We'll help you go through it together because we have our moments too. So yeah, with that being said, thank you guys so much for listening once again. And yeah, I hope that you guys learned something about being prideful and being kind of boasting and overconfident about something. Next week we'll talk about the opposite, which is being humble. And we'll talk about implications, how to be more humble, and things like that. All right. But yeah, for now, take it easy, guys, and we'll see you next week. Goodbye, everyone.